Please welcome the brilliant Melvin Greer, Chief Data Scientist for the Americas over at Intel. Good morning, Melvin. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ben. It's great to be back with the GDS team and the very intelligent audience in this domain space.
Hey, it's great to have you, as always.
I appreciate getting a chance to talk. Again, I'm Dr. Melvin Greer, and I am the Chief Data Scientist over at Intel. And without question, AI and data science is the new shiny object. And whether we're talking about business cases in public sector around citizen services or in healthcare, where we're talking about personalized medicine, immunotherapy, genomics, proteomics, or this idea of being able to increase the veracity of vaccines through the speed with which we use AI adopted methods, whether we're talking about financial services, where we're able to create AI enabled fraud, waste, and abuse applications and create personalized engines for financial service products based on income, or whether we're talking about retail, whether where we're using recommendation engines and chatbots to have an omni-channel experience across the entire spectrum of ways customers want to do business, and either B2B or B2C. AI is really at the heart of all of these use cases. And so it's probably no surprise that the ambition associated with AI is high. It's very difficult to find an organization today, small, medium, or large, that is not absolutely focused on trying to take advantage of the large troves of data that they have and turn them into the insight that's going to help drive growth and innovation. It is, however, very clear that there is a hard reality that's associated with the way that these very important AI initiatives roll out. Now, if you take a look at me, you can see why the Harvard Business Review said that data scientist is the sexiest job of the 21st century. At least that's what my wife says. It is a really cool opportunity to influence and drive growth in all the sectors that I mentioned. But when we think about it, corporate adoption of AI technologies is lagging. And when we look at HBR survey of about 3,000 executives in 10 countries across 14 sectors, about 20% of them have actually implemented AI as part of their core business. And so what that means is that while we are absolutely enthusiastic about the kinds of insights and analysis we can do with data, we've fairly important realization that we've reached an inflection point where there's a gap between AI ambition and the enthusiasm we have around what it is we want to do with data and analysis, and the reality that we are experiencing in its implementation. And so we're going to have a very brief conversation about what that gap is and how to go and move beyond the gap. Today, the investment in AI is hitting an all-time high. And what we're seeing is that there's this fear of being left out or fear of not being part of this global wave of adoption. And when we look at investment since 2016, it's literally tripled. And whether we're talking about new investment in PE and VC capabilities, or we're talking about investment from a corporate perspective internal to the company, we're seeing major investments in artificial intelligence and data science. But this concept of is running into this reality that only 12%, according to Forbes AI, of these companies have actually built or are executing a company-wide AI strategy. Now, while 91% of executives believe AI adoption is going to help outpace their rivals, something is impeding their ability to get over this hump, even though they're investing large sums of money into it, and there's a realization that it's a critical need for their business. So let's examine some of the things that are causing this AI ambition to be run head on into the reality of AI. So bridging this gap is essential because as data scientists, citizen data scientists, practitioners, or business leaders, our ability to be able to innovate and grow is tied very directly to our ability to harness AI and the data that we create. And so, one of the things that is creating this gap is that we have lots of data, lots and lots of data, but not an insight is insight. And what it really means is while that we have data, much of it is not labeled or tagged or classified. It's not cleaned. And one of the things that we're finding is that there is a need to create relevancy associated with data, not just very large data repositories. Being able to find hyper-relevant data is a critical success factor in getting beyond this ambition gap. Secondly, there's a significant focus on pilots and proof of concepts, but the proof of concepts and pilots do not provide with them an ability to scale. And so while there may be some point solutions that are meaningful in AI development and architecture, reference architectures for point solutions, being able to take them and scale them in a way that they are able to provide a more enterprise class capability has been lacking. And so it's important to think about how to create these pilots, proof of concepts, and capabilities that will actually scale and be able to provide an enterprise business outcome that will be able to generate the kinds of insights that are meaningful for an extended period of time and across the business. Third, we have this idea of solutions in AI kind of looking for a problem. And so while we are very, very excited about some of the opportunities in AI and the ways that we can use data to solve problems, our enthusiasm sometimes leads us to creating solutions that haven't been properly vetted or aren't actually targeted to a business problem that will create the kinds of outcomes that we're looking for. If we're trying to do something that is very, very scientific and part of advanced research, that's one thing. But when we're talking about the application and development of solutions that are intended to solve tactical and here and now business problems, we need to be more clear, or we want to be more clear about the problem that this solution is actually trying to solve. And additionally, this AI ambition gap is exacerbated because, in many ways, the technology associated with uh, supervised and unsupervised learning, transfer learning, deep learning, the ability to harness advanced sensors, moving from cloud to edge analytics, being able to use various optimization methods for software on specific hardware platforms, the ability to harness the power of real time data and be able to provide examples of where technology can make a real difference. These concepts is moving faster than business executives are able to, in some cases, comprehend. And so when this exists, while we have some now really great solutions that are targeted to really great business problems, if the business doesn't come along with us, it can create this ambition to reality gap that prevents those solutions from actually manifesting themselves into things that the business can actually benefit from on an enterprise scale. And then I think one of the things that we find is that while many people are doing great things at a smaller scale and then ramping up to larger scale implementations, a significant portion of customers are chasing the biggest ROI first and attempting to drive very, very large implementations without getting the benefit of the maturity and understanding of how tools can be garnered and what they can be used to actually do without causing some unintended consequences. And so this ambition gap can be increased when we chase the biggest ROI without learning from smaller implementations. And so one of the things that VentureBeat noted is that right now only 13% of data science projects are making it from POCs or pilots into production. And this metric really focuses on what we're trying to identify here as the ambition gap and what it is that creates this ambition versus reality in AI and what we need to do about it. Some of the things that we need to focus in are some of the key challenges. And I've listed a couple of the challenges here that were identified earlier last year. And I think when you take a look at these challenges, there's some of them that are actually directly related to technical issues, like a insufficient data quality or data quantity. Certainly, top of mind for executives is a lack of AI skills and talent. But some of these challenges are non-technical. Things like concern over AI ethics or an incomplete understanding of AI. And so what it means is that AI practitioners, those people responsible for developing AI solutions and driving adoption, need to become fluent in both the technology areas and the non-technology areas that are impeding or can accelerate the ability of AI to be used to solve real business problems. And what we're seeing is a significant growth and understanding of some of these non-technical challenges to AI adoption. Um, while according to Accenture, 84% of executives know they need AI, 76% of them acknowledge that they're struggling to understand how to scale AI capabilities across their businesses. And so, if we as practitioners are in a better position to understand both the technical and non technical challenges that are impediments to AI adoption, then I think what will happen is that we'll be in a better position to close this ambition reality gap. So, what are the hard steps, the first things we need to focus on? Well, here they are. There's a summary of them. This is not an exhaustive, complete list, but certainly these are things that will help move the things in AI adoption forward. You are not going to hear anybody in this conference talk about the adoption of AI without understanding what the business is actually trying to do with it. And in many ways, this is like my mother-in-law. She's a 66-year-old Italian woman. I married her daughter, a really beautiful Italian girl. And all she knows is that her son-in-law works in computers. So one day she asked me, so Mel, what's the best computer that I can buy? And of course, the answer I gave her is it depends on what you want to do. And so in this exact case, exactly the same way, it's important for us to understand what the business is trying to achieve and determine how and or if an AI data science construct is really going to be beneficial for that particular business problem. Second, we have to be very, very clear about the workforce and reworking our workforce so that they can participate in the human augmentation and collaboration associated with AI adoption is important. It means that there's going to be a need to reshape the talent that we have in our workforce and provide more diversity to the development and implementation teams so that we can be more effective in the way that we drive AI. Critical to the set of non-technical issues or impediments is the understanding of the societal, legal, and ethical frameworks that need to be brought to bear. If people do not trust AI, our ability to get over the ambition reality gap will be very difficult. And so the idea or task here is to ensure that your data science teams are actively participating in forums where ethical principles into the development of AI are being discussed and they can contribute to. And this is why it's so important to collaborate with forums outside your industry. And it's really beneficial to me at Intel. We have a wide variety of customers. But if you're in the automotive industry and focused on manufacturing or advanced electrical vehicles or autonomous vehicles and autonomous transportation, you might want to talk to folks in public sector who are doing the same thing, or talk to folks in financial services who are thinking about adopting AI strategies so that you can see and benefit from some of the lessons learned that are outside your industry. It's absolutely imperative for Intel to do that because in spite of the fact we have 90,000 or so really great PhD engineers and scientists, we're not the smartest people in the world, and we need the collective. In this particular case, the community is in fact better, stronger, and smarter than one individual company. And then this idea of being able to prioritize a data strategy. Many customers really want to jump to the AI strategy they've read in a magazine or jump to an AI strategy that one of their ecosystem partners or vendors have encouraged them to jump to. But data and a data strategy is really the very first step to this idea of AI adoption. And then our ability to align AI, cyber, and cloud computing initiatives in a way that they become meaningful and collaborative and become a force multiplier on top of themselves is a critical factor in being able to close this gap. So hopefully you've seen some activities that are going to be beneficial to you and realizing all of the ambition and enthusiasm around AI. I'm excited about it, and I hope that you are too.
Really got the creative juices flowing amongst everybody. I think it was Bruno who said, get the cogs turning. So many thanks for getting things underway here today.
Thanks, Ben. Have a great rest of the conference.
Great stuff. You take care.